Hey, what's up? This is Sully from Godsmack. Strap on those boots, baby, because you are now in the trenches of the war room with the one and only Mistress Carrie right here on the Mistress Carrie podcast.
What's up? This is Joe Rogan, and you're listening to Mistress Carrie.
Her hair so lovely, pretty eyes.
Hey, this is Brent from Shinedown, and you're listening to Mistress Carrie. Hey, Carrie, go put your bra on, girl.
Hey, this is Steven Tyler, and you be listening to the baddest bitch in Boston, Mistress Carrie.
What's up? This is Aaron from Stain, and you're listening to Mistress Carrie.
Hi, everybody. This is Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters, and you're listening to the one, the only Mistress Carrie.
Hey, this is David from the band Disturbed, and you're listening to the baddest bitch in Boston, Mistress Carrie.
Hi, Bruce Dickinson here from Iron Maiden. Yes, indeed, Miss Whiplash herself, Mistress Carrie, is here to unchain your brain.
Hi, this is Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. You're listening to Mistress Carrie.
This is Dennis Leary. You are listening to my favorite, Mistress Carrie.
Hey, this is Corey from Stone Sour, and you have the privilege of listening to Mistress Carrie.
Oh, God. Oh, yeah.
Hey, it's Mistress Carrie, reporting for duty from MCHQ for episode 308 of the Mistress Carrie podcast. My guest this week is Everlast, otherwise known as Eric Schrody, a member of House of Pain and a solo artist who's getting ready to release his first new album in 8 years, Embers to Ashes, on August 28th. Everlast talked all about the recording and writing of the new album with producer Yelawolf. We talked about the Larry Bird jersey and the Jump Around video with House of Pain, and discussed everything from the marriage of hip-hop and rock and roll to coffee to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame to the terrorist attack at the Bataclan in Paris, where he almost was. Everlast is an incredibly fascinating guy who is multi-talented and an amazing songwriter, and he's also a guy that tells it like it is. I was so excited to finally get him on the podcast. So allow me to introduce you to the one and only Everlast. Everlast, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
First of all, I got to ask you, what do you prefer people like me call you? Because I don't know you, but I love your music, so I feel like I know you. Is Everlast okay? Is Eric okay? What is appropriate?
It doesn't matter to me. It's all. At this point, I have like dear friends that call me Everlast, like, and call me Eric, call me whatever. I don't, as long as, just don't call me late for dinner.
Are you having coffee right now? I'm always curious how you take your coffee.
I just finished up a cup of coffee, yeah.
How do you take it?
I like a little cube of sugar and a splash of milk in there. But me and my friend Be Real kind of started this food company, and coffee is like one of the first things we've kind of made, though it's not going to be our primary focus of the business. But so I bought like a really nice coffee machine and been, dealing with that.
In Boston, we're very passionate, of course, about our Dunks kids. So that's why I was asking.
I've been a long time from Dunkin's,
I do have to bring up the Boston thing because I want to know if the Celtics ever wrote you a royalty check for the number of jerseys you helped to sell them from the Jump Around video. Did you ever get cut a check?
No, they never cut me a check, and it wouldn't have been deserved. I mean, like the whole Boston thing wasn't even about the Celtics. I'm not from Boston.
I know, but that shirt made us feel seen.
What it was about was like hip hop and like equating Larry Bird's position in the NBA to how I felt I wanted to be in hip hop. We wanted to be that guy, the baddest white boy in the game, and then potentially the baddest guy in the game. But I switched my game up mid career and started with the jumper instead of driving to the hoop. So
the collaboration with Run DMC and Aerosmith, it turns 40 this year. And when people bring up the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and they talk about, it should only be rock bands in there, whatever. My argument is hip hop and rock music, A, both stemmed from the blues, and B, are so fused together now they can't ever be separated. How do you feel about that?
I don't know if they ever were. Just take that collaboration, for example. That happened because the Aerosmith breakbeat was a staple at, you know, hip hop parties, rap party, whatever they were called back in 1981, you know what I mean? Or 70, whenever, you know, that era, it was like, that's break beats are called that because DJs played the best break in the song. And just once the mixer came involved and they figured out the science of it, they would just repeat the breaks and that's where that's where looping and all that begins there. And it's all started with a base of somebody else's art. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, I put it akin to like nowadays, like I'm a big fan of like, you know, one of the biggest pollution things in the world is actually clothing. And I'm a really big fan of like what they call upcycling, these designers that just take all this old shit and make it into really dope new shit. And that's kind of what I think hip hop is like the upcycling of at least my era was. I mean, I think it's a little different now. But like the sampling and manipulation of samples and stuff, that's what that is to me. It's you know, it's an art in itself.
You and I are speaking today, which is my 28th radio anniversary. So I started on the radio back in the 90s when obviously the cultural phenomenon of House of Pain and Everlast and all of that happened, and that shift in music. And riding through all of the different music phases and all of the different artists and eras, I'd be hard pressed to find an artist that has changed directions in such a powerful way than you over the years.
Yeah, I don't really see it as changing directions. I just have added to the arsenal to me, and like. This literally is probably the first album I think I've ever put out that didn't have a fair portion of just straight up hip hop music. Like I never walked away from hip hop. It's just the songs that I became known for as a singer songwriter just became the songs people latched onto more. So yeah, I don't look at it as changing forms as much as just adding to, like I said, I compare it sometimes to like Jordan. When he came in the league, he drove to the hoop and he got the fouls and he dunked it. But by the time he was 4 or 5 years in the league, he had mastered the jump shot in his game, had broadened his game and made his game, you know, I'm not comparing myself to Jordan. I'm just saying kind of broadening of your arsenal is only going to lead to good things. I mean, genres are fucking constructed by, you know, marketing companies and advertisers. I mean, that's really all it is, trying to pigeonhole us all into a certain group of what we like so they can sell us shit.
It comes up on the show actually all the time because growing up in the 80s, it was very kind of whatever artist you listened to said something about you. Whereas now with streaming, people listen to everything, but there was that point in my upbringing where the patch on your jean jacket said something about who you were as a person, and those silos in a lot of ways, partly because of rock and hip hop fusing together the way that they have, that kind of is all gone now. But when you try to explain how it used to be to kids, they're like, what?
Well, I see. Well, there's two parts to that. The first part is like it's hard for any youngsters to understand that when there's no effort involved. For $9.99, I get all the music every month, all of it, everything, all of it. Whereas when I was growing up, I had to save $15 or however many. $30 for whatever records were coming out that week because the only place I could get them was either at the store or taping them off my friends that bought them.
Or we could get 10 for a penny in the mail. Don't forget those.
Yeah, I never bought. Yeah, my mom would have beat my ass. So like, it's just, there's no effort, but I see a real, I don't know if it's a regression or a immersion of like cassettes and vinyl. I think the youngsters are starting to understand there's a physical experience to be had, you know, there was something to opening that thing. And there is something to who you choose to listen to. Because with the streaming, I don't really think you're choosing. I think you're just going with whatever kind of happens and flipping around, and because it's not costing you any effort. When you have to put a little effort in, you know, those same kids ain't going to every show that comes through town. You know what I mean? They go to the shows they want to make an effort to. So I think the physical product part of it is something the kids are starting to understand is like missing, and was a really good part of it. And I'm a big advocate of all the people my age, and I'm 56, but 40s and up, start telling these kids about it, because it's going to disappear. We're the last people that can translate to them like what that was, how much fun it was to go to a fucking record store every Tuesday. And fucking, I can't explain to my kid. My youngest daughter actually gets it the most, because she comes with the most eclectic music when she plays shit for me, like from early things, the Deftones, to weird things in the early 2000s, Alex G, and weird, like she's only 13, but it's because I've ingrained in her, like, just look at shit. Like, I used to buy records just because the record album looked cool. I was like, that cover is amazing. That's got to be good.
Back when covers would get banned for being controversial.
Yeah, but when you walked in the Tower or wherever it was, and there was that new release week, and there's 25, 30 albums there, and you came for one, but then you might see another that's like, whoa, that looks crazy. I want to grab that. And there's just something to that. And I think, it's the same notion of, you can't download an experience, you can't download a T-shirt, you can't download, being at a show. My next level of hope is that they stop doing the hold up the cameras thing. And actually, because I just saw like a clip of, like, I think it was Alanis Morissette, but it was like at one of the festivals in the 90s, and just watched the crowd. And there was not one phone or camera raised up. There was just people listening to music and having an experience. And I think that's starting to be understood, that there's this thing that's supposed to be connecting everybody really is dividing us, and not really giving us what connection really feels like. Connections in person.
Would you do those yonder pouches like Ghost and other artists are doing, where they want people to put their phones away during the shows?
I've been gone a long time. Perfectly honestly, if I got to a point where the demand for my ticket was big enough and I was controlling a venue, fuck yeah, I would tell you, like, hey, no, put the phones away. You know what I mean? I'll even, I've even toyed with the idea of, like, and I'm not the first one to have the idea. A lot of people have done it, but just recording every show every night and having it available at the merch booth, like on little fucking flash drives type shit. I'm even into, like, going back to the old 70s, 80s shit and say, like, hey man, bring a tape recorder, bootleg that shit. I don't give a fuck.
Just come and experience it.
Spotify ain't gonna put your bootleg tape on my show up. You know what I mean? I ain't worried about any of that shit.
You're in a new era in your career. I follow you on social media, and you put up a video a while ago in the studio with Yelawolf, and you were like, we're working on new stuff. And then I didn't hear anything. And for a while I was like, is he fucking with us? Is he really working on this music? Because you went quiet for a while. Now there's a new record deal. Obviously, this new album that you worked on with Yelawolf, which I've heard, by the way. I don't know how much I'm allowed to talk about because I was allowed to hear it. There's a lot on this record.
It was fun. It was a good experience. There wasn't a lot to talk about. I don't talk when there's not nothing to talk about. You know what I mean? We were making a record, while the record was getting finished, and then they have to make their war plans and all that shit. I mean, I'm my own label. I'm spending all the money, but it's my team that does all the work, So, like, they got to line it all up and make sure it's, because they know if they fuck it up. I mean, it's not good, but with me and Wolf, it's something that I've told it a couple times already, but it's a really bizarre story of how the whole thing really comes to fruition. Oddly enough, around me skipping going to Paris the night of the Eagles of Death Metal show.
So I wanted to talk to you about this. So for anybody that doesn't know, back in 2015 at the Bataclan in Paris, that was the terrorist attack.
Yeah.
And you were supposed to be there. The Deftones.
I was going to go because I had just played Berlin. Our next show, our next day or day off was in Paris, because just outside Paris was our next show. And then I found out all my friends were like, my front of house or their front of house guy and tour manager was mine for 10 years, a guy named Sean London. So I was going to go, but what happened was I was playing a club called the Berlin Club one night, and I saw Yelawolf was playing the next night, and then saw that he had happened to pull up and see the show. We talked. I was just starting to learn how to use a new Leica camera and decided I wanted to shoot his show. And I asked, can I shoot your show? So I stayed in Berlin. It wasn't like, it wasn't until after the show when we started getting all the news of what had happened. But that was the same night as we were drinking, and before all that news poured in, we were talking, and he just kind of leaned in at one point and said, like, hey, man, I'd love to produce a record on you someday. And at that moment, I kind of thought he was talking about like a song. I wasn't, I didn't really equate it to like, an entire album. And because I was kind of in my own bag at that time, producing my own records. And it was just like whatever it was, two and a half years ago or so, one of my buddies was pulled up to the house and he's like, dude, my girl listens to nothing but country music, and all I hear is Whitey Ford sings the blues and a lot of this shit. And I was like, really? I was like, he was like, you need to go to Nashville. Because I was just like getting the itch to make a record. I had written a bunch of songs, and so I just all of a sudden I got the date tattooed right here, EODM, Eagles of Death Metal Paris, and it's getting a little blurry now, but with the 8, the whatever it was, 10, 13, 15.
That date could have been so much crazier because the Deftones were there and they left early. Like
that's another reason I was gonna go too, because like Steph is the guitar player who I believe still flew back then or was in Europe. I was going to be there. So there was a lot of reasons I definitely would have wound up there if I was in Paris. I don't want to make it sound like, ooh, I was definitely planning and I had all these plans, but I would have been there had I gone to Paris that day. So our little exchange just was the reason I didn't go. It's just kind of coincidence. But as we were sitting, this guy Yelawolf always has a tattoo artist around. So as that news dropped and we were all just kind of stunned by it, and I just said, fucking, nothing's going to change. Everything's changing from this day on. It's like nothing will, it was a real mind fuck. So I didn't want to forget about it, and wound up tattooing it on there. So it's just weird how it all came. That when I saw that at Dawn and Nashville, and I was like, let me call Wolf. I was like, you remember when you said you want to produce a record on me? He was like, oh yeah. I was like, you still want to do it? And he was like, are you fucking serious? And that was all it took.
Are you a spiritual connection kind of person, or are you a believer in coincidences? How do you attribute all of these things kind of stitching together the way that they are?
It's very easy. I don't plan anything. I live by, however you want to refer to it. I call it road signs. I've been gifted with some sort of intuition of seeing certain things that tell me like, oh yeah, you're not supposed to do that, or oh yeah, that's what you need to do. And that's why, honestly, I don't do it. That's why you don't see me a lot, because I'm not here for attention. Except if it's for the art and the music. I love to be on stage, don't get me wrong. But when I'm supposed to be quiet, I stay quiet.
When it comes to writing songs, I talk about it on the show all the time. I'm so fortunate that I can speak to musicians, but I'm so envious of your craft because I can't write songs and I can't play instruments. My clarinet from the marching band is back there. That's where my career started and ended. How does the songwriting start for you? Do you see something and think of a lyric first? Is it a melody that you hum? Is it a riff? Like, where does the idea come from?
It could be any one of those. Not. I don't usually come up with a melody or anything, but like it could be a chord progression that leads to something. But often it's just like a particular phrasing of a sentence, even, or ooh, I like the way that sounds, or I like the way that feels to think about, and then just move from there. I like to try to meet people at the highest common denominator, but at the lowest, simplest language of whatever you're trying to speak about. You know what I mean? I don't try to overcomplicate it and, be too clever or, I just, at this point, I kind of feel like the second half of my career is these things, some of these things are for healing. You know what I mean? Myself and hopefully other people,
Well, that was one of the things I noticed on the songs off of this new record is that it seems very personal. It seems very introspective and autobiographical, that you are kind of, I don't know if you're trying to purge some stuff in your own life or trying to connect with your fans in an emotional way. But it seemed, that was the word that I wrote down when I was listening to it. It seems personal.
It's very personal. I mean, in between now and the last record, COVID hit. I had a house burned down. I got divorced. It was a nice little fucking chunk of almost decade. And it wasn't, they weren't a lot of things you can consider wins. You had to really find your way around. Like, okay, where's the fucking silver lining in some of this shit? And one of the keys was like, I went to Nashville with, a better part of an album written, but maybe 3 of those songs made the album. What happened when I got there was Wolf. First of all, when we first started talking about the album, he just confirmed what my friend had said. He's like, yo, you have no idea how much impact that had. Everybody's going to pull up on this record. Everybody if I ask somebody to come, they're going to come. And I was like, well, that's cool. I don't like a lot of guest visits, but he's like, I'm talking about players, anybody, right? He's like, I got a couple writer cats in mind. And I'm like, I really don't write with people. He's like, dude, trust me. So he brought in a couple of cats that did a lot of top line writing with me. And we really got to, I made some really good friends and they got to know me. And because they kind of grew up on Whitey Ford and, they spoke my language. They wrote things in that I would be like, that line, I would have wrote that line. That's fucking amazing. So it made me be able to let go of what I call an MC's mind, which was like, I've been, I was raised with a rap mentality. Like if it ain't yours, it's fraudulent. There were ghostwriters, you ain't an MC in my book. If any of your rhymes were ghostwritten.
As somebody that works alone in a studio and has never had producers or anything, I understand, like, you're in control of it for better or worse. It's all you, and trusting a producer, co-writers. Are you talking about Chief and D-Ray? Are these the guys you're talking about?
Yeah, those are my boys now. Those are family. And they present ideas, and it's like, so we wound up going on a tear. I was there 2.5 weeks and we wrote like 17 songs. And, I like I said, maybe 3 of I got a whole nother record of like, I'm trying to figure out, maybe I'll make an acoustic record or something, like, of good songs. We just went on a tear and it became the album. It's like I've never been into conceptual albums, but I consider albums like books. I mean, they have to make some sort of sense for me. They are a cohesive unit at some point. They might not be, Pink Floyd The Wall, conceptual, but like they're linked somewhere along the lines. And this album is kind of like a love letter to Los Angeles and, what it's been going through and, a search for healing on some levels in other ways.
Did you have to leave Los Angeles and go to Nashville to be able to write a love letter to Los Angeles, to see it from afar?
No, it was evident in some of what I was talking about already. And like I said, the more I got to know these guys, I was the LA guy from Nashville, and the fires had just happened in Palisades, and they all had known my experience in the Woolsey fire 5 years ago before that. And, so just, things like, all right, like just even the title of the album, it was when I was there that I was like, just was saying something to somebody else. And I was just like, man, fuck, it's like fucking goes from embers to ashes like that. And I was like, holy shit. And so next time I saw the guys, I was like, yo, I got this little seed, and we just sat in a circle and fucking made the song. I've never done that before. That was an amazing experience to let go of some of that ego and control, and know you're in the room with some guys that are killers, and see that no matter how good I think I wrote a song, there's somebody that can come along and chisel a piece off or add a piece on that's going to make it a little bit better. And knowing that makes you a better writer, musician, artist.
When you look back at that like COVID era, because you're talking about the 1, 2, 3 punch, right? Like COVID, fire, divorce. There are people that were barely like affected, right? There was COVID for them, and then it was it. And I had a similar thing where my radio station after 29 years got sold. I became the primary caregiver of my mom, who was diagnosed with dementia and Alzheimer's, COVID. Like, there are certain people like you and I that every time we tried to get up out of the ocean got hit by another wave. And then there's people that were like almost completely unaffected by it. And I feel like people like you and I are in this club where we didn't just survive, like we barely survived this onslaught over and over again.
I mean, I understand what you're saying, but I like kind of, I haven't been able to think like that for a while for the reason, like my oldest daughter's born with cystic fibrosis, right? I got really, really into some whole like Lieutenant Dan fucking Forrest Gump, a war with God type shit. And then I had my moment on top of the mast, and it came down to me. Somebody fed me a few pieces of information. I started learning a little bit about breath work and meditation, and there's two things that get me through everything, and it's right now is inevitable, and the second part of that is this too shall pass. And that doesn't matter if it's good, bad, doesn't matter. Both those things are absolute truths. And when you can live in that, I don't look at it like I got knocked down by wave after wave. I look at it like my life is on the path it's supposed to be on. You know what I mean? The person I divorced is now a dear friend of mine. Like, you know what I mean? Probably more so than when I was married to them. My children are flourishing. My house got burnt. The worst part of that, I lost all the memorabilia from House of Pain and a lot of the kid pictures and wedding pictures. That's the worst part of that. The house ain't shit. My kids are fine. All the pets survived. Some wood and some fucking plaster got burned. COVID is a whole nother mess of fuckery. But, you know what I mean? That's just what life is. You know what I mean? And when you can, again, I'm a fortunate man. I'm also, I'm not fucking struggling to eat. There's people out there struggling to eat. There's people out there that, it's hard for me to complain. I get sad. Oh, poor, you know what I mean?
There are musicians that look at creating music to give people an escape. And then there are musicians that create music to hold a mirror up to the world or to make some kind of a statement and to be raw and tackle hard things. And you are an artist that has never, in my opinion anyway, been afraid to speak truth to power, to talk about the hard things and to be raw and open and emotional. Is that a conscious decision, or is it just not possible for you to be another way? Because when you do that, you open yourself up to the scrutiny that follows.
That part is not even a consider like that. I don't care. I would say it's a product of who my mother and father made me. My mother was, very loving and caring of every and anyone, no matter who, what, where, why. My father was a union man. So and went from, just being a construction worker he worked his way up into the union and fought injustice in his union and actually got ostracized because he fought against the upper level when he started exposing some of this stuff. So I've just seen it all. I know what it is to actually fucking, there's a lot of, I'm not afraid. You can't cancel me. I own myself. No record label owns me. No, all you can do is stop my money flow and I'll figure something else out. But I know that ain't gonna happen because I don't put, you might not like what I say, but I don't tell lies. And the only things I comment on are like the shit that's hurting people. You know what I mean? Here, there, anywhere. You know what I mean? The world is being like the crazy part is there's a lot of shit that 10 years ago I would have told you, like, you're fucking crazy. That's not, even as still feeling the way I do about a lot of things, I would be like, that's over the top. And none of it's over the top. If anything, we've been underexposed to what's really how fucked up this world is and how much they are robbing just everybody. And it doesn't matter. We're fodder. You don't matter. You're a machine. You're a tool. And as soon as you break, they're going to buy another one and put it in your place. And that's really all I'm trying to get people to see. It ain't about color or creed or if you're gay or trans. They don't care. They're taxing you regardless. And that's all that matters. Your life is being traded on the stock market 20 years from now. They're already spending that money up from your taxes. Like, people need to this ain't conspiracy shit. This is like look at the world. It is a cabal of billionaire scumbags that have been raping, murdering, and fucking eating kids. And I don't see the machete party on the fucking White House lawn of all the dads yet. Where are we at? I'll show. Put it on a flyer. Let's go. I guarantee you there'll be a fucking lot of if somebody organizes shit. And I just think this is getting out of hand, but I think America's fucking scared. I mean, Nepal got mad and burnt their fucking parliament to the ground and the government quit. It doesn't take that much. 3.5% of the people is all it takes to fucking make this government go away.
The guys in Gojira won a Grammy from their performance at the Olympics for a song about their revolution with a decapitated opera singer on the Olympics.
Yeah. They're not telling us the truth about anything. The news is bullshit. I mean, it sounds so fucked up. It's like, I don't want to be that guy, but it's like, and as far as like all of what I may speak out or repost, it's all about just like when I see people getting hurt, I can't not share. If I can't do anything else, a few 100,000, maybe 1 million people might follow you. Maybe just some of them knowing about it if they don't know about it already. Maybe somebody got the solution. I always fall back on the Tupac quote of like, maybe I don't spark the mind that changes the world, but maybe I spark the mind that sparks the mind that changes the world. I don't know. It's I do what I think I should do. That's it. Period.
It sounds like you and I had a very similar upbringing when you talk about your mom and you talk about your dad. And one of the things that we talk about on the show is the soundtrack to your childhood. So my theory is you get unwillingly exposed to music growing up by your parents or your cool uncle, your older siblings. And then there comes a point in your adolescence where you hear something and you make the decision for yourself that you like it. And then everything changes from there. So what was the soundtrack to your childhood? What did your house sound like growing up? And then what did you decide you liked for yourself?
My mom was, heavy into like the oldies of, Motown and the, 60s R&B stuff. My dad was, a kind of a rock guy, Neil Young and, stuff like that. And I remember, he liked singer-songwriters too, like Jesse Winchester. And and like he was again construction worker. I would scrap the work sites in the summer and make a little money with them, and that's all I heard. That's where I was exposed to country, because they would just have the country music station on playing all day. So that's where I heard Willie for the first time, and Waylon and Johnny Cash, and that Yellow Rose of Texas song. That's like burned in my brain, though I can't remember who sings it. So that's kind of, and then the first thing that I chose was, also like all the cool kids would, that I would like want to be, get the cool shit from, would be exposing me to things like Kiss or Ozzy Osbourne and Black Sabbath. And I like that stuff. But the first thing I chose was when I heard Rock Box by Run DMC. I knew I was hearing something that was different and, was a new energy. I wasn't around when punk rock jumped off, but I imagine it kind of was like, ooh, what's that? That's interesting. And a lot of people were kind of like, nah, that's especially around where I was. It was like I said, rock and roll, Hesher white kids smoking penners, and I was out running around with like a bunch of Mexican kids listening to Run DMC and writing graffiti.
Tell me the story about your first guitar. Like, are you from a musical family? Did it get gifted to you? Are there other musicians or musical ability in other generations, or are you the first one?
Well, my dad had a guitar very similar to this, but
I was going to say, if you pull out that original guitar right now.
Well, it doesn't exist anymore. In a drunken night one night, a friend fell on it in the studio.
Oh.
Yeah, I've long forgiven them. But and I found one that was, this is literally the same year. So I kind of feel like I've reimbursed myself. But like, he didn't play guitar. He would, know how to play one string things and, fancied himself but he could sing. My dad had a little voice. But I would pick it up once in a while and play. And I think, somewhere around the age of 10, they bought me a really cheap electric guitar and a really cheap amp and got me some lessons. I think I took like maybe 10 lessons when I was like 10 and was more into like sports at that point. But but I learned a few basic chords. And then when I started rhyming and then we started House of Pain, there was a few things on the House of Pain album that where we're singing this thing from Kelly's Heroes. Every time I go to town, there's a little dong, 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 dong. I play that. I was like, oh, I think I could do that. And then I started revisiting the chords and stuff. So it was a hobby during the House of Pain years. I would just do it to relax. And then when that was done, and I just, long story short, I wound up in New York working on what I thought was going to be a rap record. I was playing a guitar in the living room of my friend's house, and the semblances of what it's like were coming together. And I wasn't thinking about making it a record. It was again, just something I did to relax. And he came out of nowhere like, what the fuck is that?
Does it surprise you that song has had the staying power that it's had? Because you can't get away from it. It's everywhere.
What it's like?
Yeah.
No, but I'm happy to hear that. Somebody like sent me a video recently of like reactions of people, like younger people that have never heard it before. And like, it was kind of humbling because some of them were floored. But I think it goes back to why I say or do the things I do. It's like, I always laugh when some people will pop up, and I don't engage with assholes online, but somebody will always pop up and be like, I love your music, man, but your politics. And I immediately go like, you don't listen to my music. My music is my politics. You're dumb. But what it's like is a socio-political commentary on fucking American society. Ends is a socio-economic political fucking. So the first album, House of Pain, Sinn Féin is the House of Pain. Our day will come. That is, fuck you. You don't listen to what I'm saying. You're dumb if you think any of that. I was writing songs about Palestine in the early 2000s. I've been, you know what I mean? It's dumb. I have an album called Love, War, and the Ghost of Whitey Ford. I have a song called Kill the Emperor. And it's very obvious who it's about. You know, it's just dumb. Like,
and artists have been writing these songs for decades and decades and decades, that music has been used as a way to make statements. So when people say like Bruce Springsteen should stay out of politics, but then they go and play Born in the USA and they don't even understand, well, that's what it's about.
Yeah, and they don't even understand Born in the USA is saying, yo, this place is fucked up.
That's what I mean, yeah.
Like, that's the fucking moronist, like the level of moron you're dealing with. I tell my children all the time, and this is gonna piss a lot of people off. I tell them, yo, the average person is dumb.
Common sense is not common.
And the world is below that. An average person is dumb. Half the world is way below that. So I don't engage with morons. If what I did upset you, it did its job. Something about it, it's a reflection. There's nothing I can post politically, this, that, whatever opinion I can have. If a person reacts to it, that's a reflection of them, not me. You don't like it, it bothers you, don't listen. I'm just saying, but it's bothering you because there's something it's touching inside.
Where is the weirdest or most ironic place you've ever bumped into your own music? Because you're ever present.
I don't know. I mean, you can look at the old man and understand. Like, I can go anywhere, and I make the joke all the time. I like being at the supermarket, like at the Olive Bar, like just putting together a little pack and then getting in line at the, and then fucking any, like What It's Like or Jump Around could be playing around on the thing. Nobody knows it's me.
That's how I knew I was getting old, when I started going, wow, the music at the supermarket is awesome.
But like, I don't, and the people who actually realize that I'm maybe, oh, are you? They I'm not gonna say I have a reputation, but I have an energy that says like, hey man, don't be an ass. I'm not a small guy. You know what I mean? I'm 6'1", 220 something. So, and I'm not saying I'm a tough guy. I'm just saying it ain't, people don't engage with me. Like, it ain't online, put it that way.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't even get a lot of shit online, honestly. I really don't. Like, I sometimes expect so much more, but I think I'm protected. I think I've been protected for a long time.
I always ask songwriters, is there a song from any artist or genre that you look at as a songwriter yourself and think that song is perfectly crafted? I wish I wrote that song. It's not a favorite song question, but you look at it for the parts, the construction, and go, man, I wish I wrote that song. That's perfect.
Oh man. There's lots. How about just the whole album of the Bends? I wish I wrote that. No, but like Fake Plastic Trees, or I mean, there's a few Radiohead songs that I'm just like, wow, fucking wow. But then I could take it backwards. I mean, Ohio, like. That to me, that's right up my alley of like the kind of thing I would have been all about back then. It's I don't know, but yeah, I mean, if you're talking about like just looking at a song and technically and how it was produced and all, Radiohead's blown my mind a few times.
Before I let you go, I have to ask you to give me all the secrets. So tell me everything you can tell me about the record, when people can get it, and make the big tour announcement and all the secrets. Just let them all out on the show right now. Go ahead. Nobody's listened. Don't worry about it.
The album will be out August 28th. We have another, I don't even know the language of this business anymore. Like I was telling my manager like the other day, I was like, what do I even ask you anymore? I can't, it's not our phones reacting. You don't ask that anymore. Like it used to be about like, hey, how are the phones? And I'm like, is that even language? He's like, no. So, we got another instant gratification song is what they're calling them, I guess, nowadays, which is another release coming up soon called My Hollywood. I'll have a video released with it. And I think there'll be 2 more of those before the album. So album 17 songs, but it's an hour. They're nice little in and out.
It's got a little bit of everything. There's even horns in there, which I loved.
Wolf is a beast. I mean, I literally went into this stating very blatantly and firmly, like I had no intention of steering the boat. I'll write, I'll play, I let Wolf really kind of dictate where the songs were gonna go, and oddly enough, he made a lot of choices. I feel like I would have been right that we would have been making the same ballpark choices, but just his knowledge of music kind of really blew my mind working on the album, and the way he understood how to curate the people he put around me was he put the right people in the right room at the right time and made a lot of good calls.
Are you going to tour with it?
We got some things on the book this year, but no heavy. Probably 2027. I'll probably get out there again and hope. If it's also that depends on people. I'm not one of these people out here that are gonna. I've had a real good time out here, but I'm also not gonna go out and do like some fucking club tour I would have done in my 20s or 30s. It's just not. I don't need it that bad.
I know I'm at my time. I just wanted to say thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it today.
No worries.
And I really did love the record. They sent me the advance of it, told me not to talk about anything specific, but it's really, really good.
Thank you. I'm proud of it. And like I said, everybody that, was involved did their jobs above and beyond. And as I think, just to finish up what I was probably about to say was, beyond, I've also heard Wolf's next album, and it's fucking amazing. But beyond an artist, that I think Wolf will have a long storied career as a record producer. That's my prediction.
Well, thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day. I appreciate you spending my radio anniversary with me today.
Happy anniversary.
There he is, the one and only Everlast. His new album, Embers to Ashes, comes out on August 28th. And if you want to check out the first 2 songs from the upcoming release, they're featured in this episode's corresponding playlist. I make a playlist for every full-length episode of the Mistress Carrie podcast that features all of my guest music and all the artists and songs that we referenced in the interview. You'll find it linked in the show notes with all of Everlast links and all the Mistress Carrie links. If you liked what you heard, don't forget to like, follow, comment, share, and subscribe to the Mistress Carrie podcast. New full-length episodes come out every Wednesday, plus every weekday you get the Sit Rep. The Situation Report gives you all your rock news, music headlines, and entertainment updates in about 5 minutes. And you never know when we're going to release a bonus episode. You can join me live every Tuesday night at 8:30 Eastern for my weekly live streaming video show, Cocktails in the War Room, on Facebook, Twitch, Instagram, and YouTube. And you can always find me on the radio. Get the details on all of that, and you can shop online in the Mistress Carrie store at mistresscarrie.com. The Mistress Carrie podcast, a proud member of the Pantheon Podcast Network.